After entering a school for monsters, a young hybrid girl has to deal with the problems of adolescence while saving her school from a monster. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Monster High the Movie, from 2022. On a skateboarding rink, a skilled young man performs risky tricks while an audience watches. Suddenly, a young man appears and ends up causing a collision, revealing that the skateboarder is a girl. The girl has ears like a cat's, causing astonishment among the public, who chase her in order to film her. Claudine Wolfe arrives at her house jumping into the window. She is then surprised to find that her father has prepared a birthday cake. The teenager claims that she received a letter of acceptance to Monster High, a school that only accepts pure-blooded monsters, even if she is a hybrid because her father is human. Afterwards, she blows out the birthday candles and they make their way to the school address at night. After arriving in a gloomy wood, the girl believes the two are lost, but a portal suddenly opens in front of her. Before saying goodbye, Apollo warns his daughter to keep her origin a secret, as the institution does not accept human descendants. After going through the portal, she comes across a castle and the bell of the tower clock is ringing, revealing that she is late. At the school, in addition to the Wolf Girl, there are several monster students such as Draculaura and Frankie Stein, as well as Cleo and Laguna, who has sharp teeth and nails. In the young men class, Keith has the ability to make flames come out of his head, while Deuce Gorgon has snakes instead of hair. What's more, the principal manages to separate her head from the rest of her body. The woman approaches Dracula, who is angry that someone is practicing magic clandestinely inside the school. Claudine searches for her room and asks for help from Gulia, a strange teenager with green skin, who reveals to the newcomer that the school is alive and can answer her question. Suddenly, a corridor opens in the next wall and the girl arrives in a customized room. Inside, she meets Frankie, who reveals that she is only 15 days old, having been made in a laboratory by her parents. During the conversation, the monster girl hits her head with her finger and her index finger falls off. The new girl notices the presence of another student in the room, Draculaura, who sleeps in a coffin and is very strict, laying down various rules for her roommates, such as not invading her side of the room. On the first day of school, Stein and Claudine find their lockers, which have been designed in the shape of a coffin. At the same time, Cleo talks to her ex-boyfriend, Gorgon, who no longer shows any interest in her. After the pair of friends are insulted by the rude girl, they realize that Gorgon is staring at Claudine, so she goes over to talk to him. Soon after, the Monster High commander summons the newcomer to her office via megaphone. Upon entering the room, the girl discovers that the principal is holding an annual dinner with the school's most important sponsors and wants her to be the student's ambassador. She has to make a speech and talk about her life and family. Suddenly, the woman asks about the young woman's ancestors, which makes her nervous, causing her fingernails to shrink in size, resembling a human hand. Claudine accepts the invitation, but runs to the bathroom frightened, where she comes across Draculaura doing some kind of magic in the toilet. After entering the room and calming down, her nails grow again, leaving her confused. She rushes out of the bathroom and doesn't notice a phrase on the corridor wall, "Expel the enemy." In the school garden, Abby and Keith throw a human foot from one side to the other, as if it were normal. Nearby, the newcomer asks Frankie if a monster can become a human, so the girl searches her information-packed brain. She claims that there have been cases in history where half-breed teenagers have temporarily become people under the influence of fear or anger. In the classroom, Professor Komos tries to cheer up the class with his boring history lesson. He asks several questions and the students answer that Monster High was built to be a safe place. While trying to answer other questions, Stein stretches out her arm so excitedly that her hand comes loose from the limb. What's more, the man asks what the biggest threat to all the monsters is, and Cleo replies that it's human beings, which is why the school only accepts pure bloods. At this point, Claudine argues that not all humans are evil. Upon hearing this phrase, the professor tells the story of Mr. Hyde, an individual descended from humans and monsters, who tried to hide his secret from everyone. However, the creatures didn't like him, and neither did the people. After his secret was revealed, he was tried and hunted down by a group of humans, who took his life. After the lesson is over, Claudine goes to the teacher to ask for tips on her work on Hyde. Cleo tries to interrupt the conversation and Mr. Komos ignores her. The Guardian claims that the half-breed was very intelligent and wanted to eliminate his human side. It's very likely that he succeeded, as there was a secret laboratory that he used to make potions, but he ended up being expelled from school for it. Komos believes that the laboratory is somewhere in the school, and to find it the girl must look for Hyde symbol, expressed by two crossed hands. In a study room, Claudine finds several books with the symbol of the hybrid. She begins her research, but is interrupted when someone tries to scare her by activating the chemical devices in the room. This makes her nervous, and her hands return to human form, as do her teeth, which return to their normal shape. Suddenly, her hair loses its color and her ears also shrink in size. Frankie Stein appears from behind a shelf, giving her friend quite a fright. The monster girl offers to help Claudine find the secret formula. When she looks through the notebooks, she realizes that the notes are written in the form of codes. She then deciphers some coordinates that lead to the school cemetery. In the corridors of the institution, the principal comes across the phrase, "Expel the enemy," written on the wall in blood, which makes her furious. On the other hand, the wolf girl bumps into Deuce in the hallway and he offers to help her with the dinner speech, making her extremely nervous. This indicates that she could become human at any moment. So the young woman rushes from the scene. In the school dormitory, Cleo breaks into the other students' rooms, claiming that Claudine has no chance with Gorgon. However, she doesn't realize that Draculaura casts a spell, causing a pimple to appear on the rude teenager's face. After the curfew, the pair of friends follow Hyde's instructions and arrive at the cemetery gate, which is locked. Faced with this impasse, the newcomer jumps inside and pulls the lever to open the gate, so that Frankie can get in too. Along the way, Gulia emerges from the depths of the earth complaining about the noise the two are making in her territory. After that, they arrive at an ancient crypt, but there is no lock on the entrance. However, the wolf girl smells something different that catches her attention. On checking, she finds Draculaura doing some kind of spell in front of a cauldron and begins to levitate her own body. The young vampire asks her roommates not to tell anyone her secret, because vampires and witches have been at war for a long time, so her family would hate to know that she does spells. Claudine also reveals her secret to Draculaura, who examines the crypt and realizes that there is a lock, which can be opened by the biometrics of a hand. So the young vampire looks for a charm in her notebook and discovers that there is a magic called Gathered Mist, but it's too advanced for her level of power. So her roommates encourage her and help her to practice more. After a little practice, they leave the cemetery and don't notice that someone appears at the entrance to Hyde's crypt. In a high school cafeteria, the trio of friends discuss the list of ingredients needed to perform the spell, among them the ogre bone, one of the most difficult ingredients to obtain, but the headless woman has a mug made of this material. Later, they wait until the principal leaves her office, then Claudine breaks in, finding the mug with ease. However, when she picks up the object, she comes across a giant magic clock moving, which makes the girl hide and start scraping the sides of the mug to get the rare material. Meanwhile, the commander of the institution returns to her office and is confronted by Frankie, who tells her various stories in order to prevent her from entering the office. At the same time, Cleo appears claiming to have brought some documents for the woman, who asks her to leave the folder in her office. Draculaura tries to stop the young woman, but she can't and only warns her wolf friend, who quickly hides. Realizing the danger, the little vampire casts a spell to turn Claudine into the principal. Suddenly, the girl's head detaches from her own body. Seconds later, Cleo comes even closer and is startled when she realizes that the headless woman is already inside the room, leaving her confused. The wolf girl takes the opportunity to scold the girl, telling her that she should be kinder to the other students. Before the trio leave, the headmistress questions Claudine about the production of the speech, which she had completely forgotten about. Later, Draculaura is pressured by her father, who demands that she get better grades in her exams. After Dracula leaves the call made through an old painting, his daughter confesses to Claudine that she needs to tell her family the whole truth, even if vampires are the witch's enemies. The wolf girl also needs to reveal her truth to everyone without being cancelled from school. The next day, the students' biology class is cancelled because some students have stolen limbs that were part of the lesson. The next item on the list of ingredients is snake venom, but Frankie claims that there is only one snake in Monster High, a giant animal that rips the head off anyone who comes near it, making it impossible for the students to get the liquid. Faced with this, Claudine reveals that there is a strategy, so she tries to get close to Deuce. During a walk in the woods, the wolf girl asks if she can see the young man's hair, but he confesses that his snakes can be dangerous. Gorgon is distracted, so the newcomer takes a vial out of her pocket and tries to get the poison from a snake that comes out of the young man's cap. He ends up removing his glasses at his friend's request, but keeps his eyes closed. Claudine tries to capture the snake with a pair of tweezers, but is unsuccessful. After a quick dance, she ends up confessing that her intention was to obtain the snake venom. Then Gorgon suggests that she doesn't look into the eyes of the snakes and he removes his cap to help her. Later, the three return to the cemetery, where the two friends claim to Claudine that Deuce has a love interest in her, and even the girl buried in the tomb appears to agree. In front of the crypt, the girls mix the ingredients for the spell and Draculaura releases a bright green mist, which reaches the door of the tomb, but nothing happens. She tries one more time, and yet the door remains in place, making the little sorceress doubt her potential. On returning to school, the trio find the principal, Professor Komos and Cleo waiting for them. The headless woman puts the students in detention for breaking the timetable. What's more, she accuses Draculaura of witchcraft and says that she will warn her father, indicating that one of the students has revealed the secret. Suddenly, the lights go out, screams come from the hall and a statue starts to move, about to fall on Cleo. Quickly, Claudine rushes to the girl's rescue, pushing her away from the scene. Before the students leave the hall, the headmistress of Monster High admits to Komos that there is a half-breed monster in the school. After returning to her room, the new girl apologizes to her vampire friend, believing that she is the cause of all the problems at school. During the night, Frankie and Draculaura sleep soundly, without realizing that Claudine is packing her bags to leave. The next day, she is surprised when the vampire girl appears flying in the shape of a bat. Even so, the young wolf is still hurt by herself, which makes her nervous and turn into a human. The teenager runs, but ends up falling to the ground. When she sees the imprint of her human hand in the clay, she realizes that it is the key that opens the door to the tomb. The trio of friends return to school, where they find everyone ready for dinner. Then Claudine remembers that she didn't prepare the speech. Even so, she decides to go to the cemetery. In front of the tomb, the newcomer manages to control her body, transforming only her hand and placing it on the lock, opening the door like magic. Inside there is a tomb, which Frankie claims belongs to Agman the Terrible. Under the statue's monocle, they find a button with Hyde's symbol on it, which they press to open a secret passage. The students quickly go down the corridor that has appeared, revealing a bizarre cave full of laboratory equipment. While Frankie is looking at the various rare substances on the benches, the wolf girl finds the half-breed's secret formula. However, she begins to have memories of her father, since if she takes the liquid she will be erasing Apollo from her history. Suddenly, Komos appears and claims that she shouldn't take the potion, because he also knows what it's like to be of human descent. So he asks her to give him the elixir. Claudine obeys him and the man ingests the potion instantly, revealing that his real name is Hyde Jr., son of the hybrid. The man reveals that he found his father's diaries, but that he couldn't decipher the codes himself, so he waited for the students to help him. What's more, he can't transform into a human to open the lock on the tomb. In fact, he doesn't just want to turn into a monster, he wants to destroy Monster High. At the same time, his body begins to grow and transform into a horrifying creature. The guy claims that Hyde made that potion to get revenge on everyone who ruined his life. Soon after, he casts a spell on Draculaura and turns into a bat, revealing that he has stolen the girl's powers. The monster intends to destroy the school and then finish off his father's real enemies, the humans. At the same time, Frankie mixes two substances and causes an explosion, which hits the man hard. So the girls take the opportunity to escape from the laboratory. After closing the door, they realize that the opening to the tomb is locked, so no one can get out. Stein uses her phone to call for help, but the only contact she has that can help is Cleo. So they make a video call warning the girl about Mr. Komos' true identity. During the annual dinner, the principal gets upset because Claudine hasn't arrived at the ceremony yet. Next to her, Gorgon receives a call from Cleo warning him that the wolf girl is in danger. In the cemetery, Draculaura casts the gathered mist spell, releasing the passage to the tomb. Outside the crypt, they come across Deuce and several other students ready to help in the battle. However, Komos escapes, threatening the teenagers. Claudine tries to convince the teacher not to destroy the school, but he starts an attack on her. Quickly, Gorgon steps in front of the blow to protect her, and uses his mesmerizing gaze to petrify the man. However, the evil man absorbs the power and throws it at the young man, turning him into stone. At the same moment, the new girl runs to help her friend, but ends up getting nervous, which causes her to transform into a human in front of all the students. Suddenly, the crypt door begins to crack. Then Claudine rushes to the front line of the battle, and the guy realizes that he can't attack her because of her human form. Hyde Jr. tries to use his petrifying gaze, but the wolf girl positions the cell phone with the front camera, causing him to stare into his own eyes and be turned to stone. After that, everyone's powers return and Dulce awakens, surprised by Claudine's human form, as well as Headmistress Headless and Dracula, who suddenly appear on the scene. The next day, Apollo goes to the school to pick up his daughter, who says goodbye to her friends in the main hall. However, the headmistress of the institution decided to admit the wolf girl to the school, as the real monster was Professor Komos. So she officially welcomes the first student with hybrid blood. What's more, Dracula gives his daughter a notebook of spells, claiming that she must strive to be the best witch of all. On the other hand, a woman observes everything through her crystal ball, believing that Draculaura is the secret to ending vampires. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you like the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.